equitable representation on some basis was such a profound principle for this government, they've already made a hash of it. So they're in no moral position to talk about equity as the basis for imminent delimitation.
As per the constitution, there is no mandatory provision for the union government to share the revenue through cess and surcharge.
Whether I should be looking for loopholes because you unconstitutionally restrict me, it's like asking the victim, now what are you going to do after you got stolen from? Why should I get stolen from first?
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Day 2 of the Hindu Huddle 2025, our 5th edition. As the curator of this event as well, I'm very, very proud to have assembled not just a fantastic team that has delivered this huddle to all of you, but also the fact that you've all turned up today in wonderful numbers and you've been part of the conversation. India in Dialogue is the theme of our 5th edition, and we truly feel that this is a moment, whether in national politics, global politics, it is a moment that requires our engagement, and it is engagement that can actually have transformational power. So I'm very pleased to be here today with both of you. Thank you for coming all the way. And as the title suggests, we are going to be looking at how the recent changes in the political system within India has actually impacted federalism itself as originally envisioned within the constitution, and how the rules of the game appear to be changing and tipping the balance one way or the other between the center and the states, and what options states have to actually fight for their fair share of resources, their rights, and much more. And all of this, whether center or state, is of course to deliver good governance and development to the people of the country. So with that, let me begin by the question that's been in the news very much in recent months, delimitation. So while we're all aware that delimitation comes with the possible risks to the representational power of certain states in parliament, is there an alternative to looking at changes in demographics? Can we add other aspects to the formulas? What are they? What would you propose? And how could this be worked out? We can start with you, Mr. Rajan.
I don't need this, right? Okay. Well, I think there are many possibilities, right? Anybody who's thoughtful and can do basic math, there's many, many ways we can do this. I might be exceeding my brief if I go too far, but I'll just mention 2 points. One, the Joint Action Committee that has been brought together under my Chief Minister's leadership and coordination has clearly recommended that the right action would be a freeze for another 30 years, I think, of the delimitation. So having made an official position, I don't want to exceed that. I just want to point out, though, that this notion of how representation should be decided, this government itself in Delhi, this union government, has already implemented the extreme opposite view. If you go back to the theory that equal weightage of every citizen's vote is the basis for doing delimitation and reassigning seats. That's the basis, right? That's the logic. If that's the logic, then there could be nobody further away from that in their actual history of action than this government of India, because in the GST Council, we have a voting system that is one state, one vote. That is to say, 200 and odd million people of Uttar Pradesh get one vote, 500,000 or 1 million people of Arunachal Pradesh get one vote. That is to say, a state like Maharashtra that contributes, 15% of the GDP and probably 18% of taxes gets one vote, and a state like Mizoram that probably contributes 0.03% of the GDP gets one vote. So if equitable representation on some basis was such a profound principle for this government, they've already made a hash of it. So they're in no moral position to talk about equity as the basis for imminent delimitation.
Thank you. Sir, would you like to?
I also sharing some of the points expressed by my colleague here, but certain differences, that is, we are not in favor of freezing the total process. It should be changed because now 36 lakhs of people are represented by a single member of parliament, or 25 lakhs of people are represented by a single member of parliament, then this constituency should be concised for a small constituencies. But this equitable distribution, equitable representation should be there. That is our position with regard to this. The thing is, earlier in 70s, it has been freezed because of the successful implementation of the people planning. And these southern states have successfully implemented that union government program. Now, this is a tool for penalizing these states which had successfully implemented union government program. This proportion should be, at least this proportion should be maintained while increasing the number of seats. That is our position with regard to this.
So, thank you for making that link to the other aspects of equity as such and representational power. Both of you did that. But just limiting it only to the delimitation question, we cannot really get away from the fact that demographics have changed. We do have to have representation shifting to accommodate for that. But perhaps we also have to factor in what you alluded to, which is the fact that some states contribute much more in terms of revenue. They've been successful in promoting growth. Is there a formula that balances these multiple aspects?
Again, I'm not here to talk in theory, so let me talk practically 2-3 things, right? Because the position has already been stated on behalf of the Joint Action Committee. But I want to say 2-3 things. The point that Honorable Minister made, that if you were to do it based on population, it was the national imperative that asked all of us states to control the population. So you're penalizing those who did what you asked, right? That's not fair. But there's a different issue altogether. What is it that worries you about this representation? Right? Already, the way this country is right now, already whichever party dominates the Hindi heartland has an overwhelming probability of forming the government in Delhi. Already. If you were to go even more to the equitable, according to you, mathematical equitable, then you'd win like 5 states and you could run the government. The remaining 26 states are irrelevant. Right? So why are we interested in that skew? Then I ask a reverse question. What is it that these representatives are doing in Parliament or in the Assembly? Ever since the Anti-Defection Act, and ever since the ratio has become something like few 100,000 to 1 for an MLA and probably million, 2 million, 3 million to 1 for an MP. The role of the legislature itself, this notion of debate, of control, of accountability, of checks and balances, is basically eroded. Tell me one place where a bill went to Parliament or went to Assembly, had vigorous debate over multiple days, was changed. Tell me when the last time an independent MLA was elected, or how many independent MPs in the last 25 years. The system is already going through electoral process mostly for the sake of determining the government, not because the legislatures or the legislative bodies, including the Parliament, are doing fantastically well and therefore more representation gets you more things. Lastly, I say, the states that would benefit from such a redistribution, that's what it is. You say delimitation, I say redistribution of the ratio of seats, are already getting the overwhelming majority of resources. Because of the way the Finance Commission works, because of all these other things, I don't want to make this political, but the math is the math. Yeah. That already these Hindi heartland states are getting the overwhelming majority. For every rupee they get in, they get multiples back. What more do they expect to get by having better representation or greater representation? So to me, the logical thing, and listen, this is not, it's not a first time that somebody has thought about this. Tall leaders of the country. Nobody can argue that Mrs. Gandhi was not a tall leader of this country. Nobody can argue that Thiru Vajpayee was not a tall leader. Tall leaders of this country, in their wisdom, saw fit to freeze the delimitation and push it for 25 years in the hope that someday there would be a more equitable outcome in terms of underlying things like population growth, economic development, social development, etc. Right? This is not the first time we've ever thought about it. So I think reasonable people would argue that this is a kind of really complicated problem that 50 years have not been able to resolve or solve in any way. And the upside of doing this any differently is dwarfed by the potential risks of opening this problem. That's what a thoughtful person would say, right?
Mr. Rajeeve, let me ask you, so as Honorable Minister said, states such as Tamil Nadu and Kerala get a relatively smaller share of the tax revenue shared by New Delhi, whereas other states with a higher population receive a larger share of tax revenue, such as UP getting 18%, Bihar 10%. That leaves Tamil Nadu with 4.2%, Karnataka with 3.65%, Kerala with 1.96%. So is this a problem with the formula, or is this more about pork barrel politics? Is it about fighting for your share and just getting more from the center? Is it a negotiated outcome?
Actually, this is not a new thing. It is happening for several years. During the period of 10th Finance Commission, Kerala got actually 3.88% of the share from the divisible pool. Now we are getting only 1.96% of the share from the divisible pool. If you are looking to Uttar Pradesh, they are getting around 26,000 crore rupees from the divisible pool. That is higher than the total share of the 5 southern states. That is the reality. Then Kerala and Tamil Nadu, these states had implemented the union government policies. Education for all, that is a union government policy. Healthcare for all. We are implementing all these policies in a successful manner. And also we are, due to these policies, our life expectancy is almost same as the developed countries. Our higher education is demand more resources for enhancing the quality. Then we are facing actually second generation problems. Quantity to quality for education. Then quantity base, okay, we are in very good compared with the developed countries. But for quality, we need more resources. The second generation problem of the healthcare system, the life expectancy is almost similar to the developed countries in Kerala. That is in the reality in Kerala. Then we are facing the problems of the senior citizens. Geriatrics is mandatory for our hospitals. These type of issues we demand for more resources. But we are penalizing by the union government for our successful implementation of their own policies. Actually, as per Article 1, that's a beautiful article of Indian Constitution, India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states, not a union over states. It is not a union, not a federation of independent states, but it is a union of states. All states should get their own share. Now another thing is happening. This divisible pool, they are limiting by imposing cess and surcharges. As per the constitution, there is no mandatory provision for the union government to share the revenue through cess and surcharge. It can be used by themselves without any sharing. Then they are imposing more cess, more surcharge, and limiting the tax, and also implementing these type of things. Then this is totally against the fiscal federalism concept of our constitution. All states stand together. We should get more benefit. We should recognize for our achievements by implementing their own policies, union government policies. Then one other thing, Tamil Nadu and Kerala always using union governments. I think Hindu is also used that terminology. In constitution, we could not find central governments. No central government in the constitution. No national language in the constitution. But we are always using central government. No. By using all these terminology, we are creating a public consciousness. They are centralizing everything. There is a constitutional provision for them to centralize all these things. No. It is only a union government, union of states. All states should be equally represented in the union government, and they should get equal share from the resources. This money is coming from the states, not from the union government. This is coming from the states. Then expenditure, the expenditure side, the states are taking more burden. He is more aware than me because he was a finance minister of Tamil Nadu. Actually, 65-67% of the expenditure is by the state governments, but their share is very less from this revenue side. Then it should be addressed in the proper manner.
I think this raises a very interesting question of differences between the union government and states. in terms of their own priorities or models that they have for fiscal expenditure. So, for example, Tamil Nadu, of course, we've followed the Dravidian model for many, many decades. And social justice, welfare policies, they are inbuilt into the DNA of policy making. You could argue that parties such as the BJP, maybe others too, like the Congress, which have primarily been ruling from Delhi, want to focus at this juncture on growth-focused policies or growth-driving policies rather than redistributive policies or welfare policies. Could it be that this is, again, may need to a negotiated outcome between the need for social welfare and those, or do you feel that this is just the union being, it has to fall in line with what states are doing because they are contributing the resources?
No, I think it is very clear in the Constitution that they're equal branches of government, right? The government of India does not get to dictate what the policy of the state should be. If so, why do we have state elections? Why do we have legislatures? So, the fact that they have different priorities than us, first of all, I don't agree. Look at how much money they're spending on giving free rice to 800 million people or something. So when they do it, it's considered development economics. When we do it, it's considered freebies. It's a hypocrisy at its worst. It's not worth intellectual debate. My point is, they don't get to decide for the states. That's what the Constitution says. They get to decide for themselves. They can prioritize what they want. They get elected, they form a government because they have the majority. They can decide what they want within the bounds of the Constitution. As the Honorable Minister says, not including cess and surcharges in such a big way, not trying to direct it based on political considerations. They're doing 100 things wrong. But whatever they're elected to do, their mandate to do, they should do that. And whatever we are elected to do, it's our priority to do that. I would say, actually, even if you look at the southern states, there are significant differences. We are all developed. There's a different discussion for a different day, why we are all well developed. I think it goes back more than 100 years to Dayaki and the Justice Party and the Madras Presidency and all that, which covered large parts of South India. But that's my view, that's a different debate. The fact is we are all developed, but we are all not all of the same model. If you take a place like Tamil Nadu, you just have to do budget analysis. It's just math, it's not complicated. You take a place like Kerala, they do a lot more devolution, they do a lot more human capital investment, and they get outcomes related to that. And at least historically, as a percentage of GDP, industries and manufacturing and all hasn't been that good. You take Tamil Nadu, we have the kind of right mix, I would say, or a more neutral mix of development, welfare, societal outcomes, and industrial kind of policies. You take places like Karnataka, Telangana, it used to be, at least till recently, much more on the development side. So even here you have various, that's what we are elected to do, that's what the people give us the right to do. We are not saying there's one cookie cutter for all southern states or all parties. We are of different ideologies, we form governments and execute on our ideology. The point is that the government of India nowhere gets to tell us what our priorities should be or how we should act, because it's not in the Constitution. They're only elected to do their job, not our job. And that they have been increasingly trying to do both their job and our job and try to dictate to us. And then the media becomes complicit in this. They say, oh, the government of India has cut petrol taxes. Why don't you? Why should I? The government, the Prime Minister says revenues are bad. What does it matter to me what he says? He should say what his philosophy is. I do what mine is. Then 2 elections later, they start doing freebies like it's going out of style. So should I swing back and forth every time they swing back and forth? We stay where we are. They go wherever they need to go. Right? So this logic that somehow they tell us what to do because there's some position like God or Pope or something, that doesn't make any sense to me. Right?
In addition to this, not only for the tax and other things.
Sorry, one point there is, again, there is the union list, state list and concurrent list. And we've seen some shifts in terms of who's claiming which subject they could make policy on. So again, in the same context, do you think that that's tipping in their favor?
Yes, actually this borrowing limit of the state governments, we have approached the Supreme Court ensuring our right to fix the limit of borrowing. As per the Constitution, the state list, union list and concurrent list is also there. And Constitution entry 32 of the state list, that is public debt of the state government. And entry 35 of union list, that is public debt of the union government. It is clearly, specifically mentioned in the state and union list. Then state legislator has the legislative competency to fix the borrowing limit of the state. The union government has the, union parliament has the legislative competency to make act to fix the borrowing limit of the union government. That is the constitutional position. Now they are imposing all these things. This is happening in other sectors also. Our general presumption is education is in concurrent list after the amendment during the 70s. Then universities are also in the concurrent list. Then state and central government, union government has the power to make legislation. That is totally wrong. In constitution, education is concurrent list after the amendment. Universities also in the concurrent list, but subject to 65, 66, 63, 64, 65, 66 of the union list. But in constitution, entry 32 is there. Incorporation regulation of the universities is in state list. The state legislator only has the legislative competency to make act to regulate the universities. If you read this 32 along with the entry 44 of the union list, it is crystal clear. It is stated that incorporation and regulation of so and so except universities. Then parliament has no power to make laws to regulate the universities as per entry 44. They are using 65 in the concurrent union list. That is determination of standards. Determination of standards, that is the UGC as incorporated as per this 65. That is only determination of standards. In Constituent Assembly, one member asked to Ambedkar, you are implementing this, you are incorporating this 65, that is to encroach the right of the state government. What do you mean by this determination of the standard? Then Ambedkar said, Madras University is giving degree for a student who got 35% of marks. Mumbai University gave a graduation certificate to a student who got 45% of marks. Then there should be a unification for this. This is very limited purpose behind 65. Now they are taking all powers. They are regulating all these things. This UGC, the recent regulation, Tamil Nadu Assembly and Kerala Assembly have taken very strong position against this UGC regulation. UGC has no power to fix the qualification of the vice chancellors. Actually, UGC Act 26 gave power to the UGC to regulate the qualification of the teachers. That is right. MPhil, okay. PhD, okay. Or at least first class, okay. But vice chancellor is not a teaching post. It is an administrative post. He is the head of the administration of the university. No provision in the UGC as per the existing act to regulate the qualification of the vice chancellor. Now they are fixing all qualifications and also search committee and also selection process. This is totally encroaching the powers of the state government. Ambedkar once said, you can dismantle the constitution without amending, but by practice. That is happening now. These all sessions are there, entries are there, but constitution is only on paper. De facto, it is totally changed.
Okay. That's an interesting note on which to segue to the next question, which relates to the role of the governor. So we have seen there too sort of a creep and a drift happening across, especially opposition-ruled states, where the governor has taken on, gone beyond the constitutional.
Sorry, can I just go back, since
please.
I'm a former finance
After
minister.
which, please answer.
No, I'll answer that one. As the minister says, it's very clear who should take care of what finances. The only kind of exception loophole is Article 293, subsection 3. It says, if the state is a debtor to the government of India, then they should get the government of India's permission before they borrow anymore. Now think of it as normal like finance, first lien, second lien. If I'm already in debt to you, I've mortgaged my house, I want to go and mortgage it again. Of course, you should be aware that I'm doing it and I shouldn't be able to lever up the house so much that you don't get paid. That was the intent of it. In fact, most states were not debtors at all, at least on paper, and Tamil Nadu certainly was not till recently. Then they found a second loophole where they said, because of foreign exchange and credit rating and some more technical things which I see instantly as an investment banker, but it's not worth talking about here, all loans from developmental agencies, World Bank, KFW, ADB, AIIB, etc. Though the loan agreement is in theory between the state and the bank, in practice it is two loan agreements back to back. So it's a dollar loan between the World Bank and the Government of India, and then a rupee loan with the Government of India and the Government of Tamil Nadu, back to back in terms of both principal repayment, interest payments, foreign exchange risk is borne, credit counterparty rating is put into the World Bank based on the Government of India's bond rating, etc. It's a mechanical process. They started using that and saying, because you have this back-to-back loan to me, you are now a debtor to me. And therefore, my rules have to apply to you. And we used to get a letter every year, at least when I was finance minister, we get a letter from some joint secretary or additional secretary, somebody in finance, Government of India, says, you, Tamil Nadu, shall borrow 83,642 crores this year, no more, and that so much of it can be done in the first 9 months. This is completely, far exceeding the intent of the Constitution, using this one loophole. In fact, I must give credit, even the predecessor government of ours, when they first offered these, because they were worried if somebody goes to court, this kind of back-to-back loan as the basis for being a debtor-creditor will not hold, they started pushing capital loans, 50-year, zero interest, effectively free money. It's a long story. The government of the ADMK declined to sign that loan. They said, why should we? Because now we're opening this loophole that they can actually regulate. Otherwise, it's a state subject. In fact, if my data is correct, Tamil Nadu enacted its Fiscal Responsibility Act about the 3% GSDP, fiscal limit, zero revenue deficit and all that, before the Government of India's Act. So we are capable of managing our own finances perfectly well. And the state legislature has the right to amend it in terms of need, like COVID, whatever. The irony of all this is, using this loophole, they tell us we can't exceed down to 1 crore. Who controls the Government of India? They were borrowing 7%, 10%, 6%. Fiscal deficit was going through the roof.
Are there any avenues?
There's not even a sense of equality. I can do whatever I want. You should do what I tell you to do.
Special vehicles, any other avenues for the states to borrow beyond this framework?
I mean, there are, but the point is not whether I should be looking for loopholes because you unconstitutionally restrict me. It's like asking the victim, now what are you going to do after you got stolen from? Why should I get stolen from first? Right?
The question on the government?
Yeah, I think some of this, the irony of this is, I don't know if you saw the recent Supreme Court judgment or you read it in full, the Palanivel Mahadevan judgment. It is a fascinating read. It's about 400 and something pages. But it is the opening to an understanding that these issues have actually existed almost since independence. Maybe for the first 10, 15 years, they were not very noticeable because we were trying to figure out how to act, how to operate as a nation, as states. And from 52 till about, I think the first mention of this disparity or this problem with the notion of union versus state rights is found in the 1969 Administrative Reforms Committee's report. As far back as then, they have said something is wrong in this structure. The states are not actually being allowed to operate enough, and the governors are becoming obstreperous. I'm saying it's 1969. Okay? So this is a problem that has been going on for a long time. It was a bit subdued or masked or subterranean as long as the Congress government, after independence, practically ran all of India, 2/3 majority in both houses of parliament and almost every state. Once you started having regional parties and differences, this thing started coming up. And everything old is new again. Like 3 points that really struck me, because I started reading after this. And then I went and read the Rajamanar Commission report, which Talavar Kalaignar, our chief minister at the time, had commissioned in the late 60s and was tabled in the House in 1974. And 2 things about that 74 report struck me immediately. The first was, in the report there is the excerpt of an interaction with a member of the Constituent Assembly from Tamil Nadu, one Mr. Kasturi, congressman. He says, I am a big, supporter of the union rights. When we formed the Constitution, we were worried, will this country hold together? We are carving out a country out of something that has never been done before. Without a strong union, without a strong kind of control, whether the country will last. So I am all for union rights, I am all for strength in the center, I am all for everything. But having said that, 70, right, he's saying, I'm starting to see the government of India try to do everything by itself, encroaching all into state subjects and doing all kinds of things. This is a recipe for disaster. You want a strong union, but you want a strong union that focuses on things like defense, foreign policy, currency management, banking system, etc. You do a few things well, you can be strong and you can do it well. You try to also do education and health and environment and this and that, you are going to fail because nobody can do everything. This is a man who was on the Constituent Assembly. He has this vision. By 70, he says this problem is happening. Here we are 50 years later, it's happening in spades, right? So this problem is continuing. The second thing is, my father was a member of the House. And because we have recently digitalized the entire history since independence, and now we're going to go back to 21 of the legislature of all the proceedings, just testing the system which the Chief Minister inaugurated. I announced it when I was Finance Minister, inaugurated. I went and pulled up my father's, from the proceedings, his speech, when the report was tabled. If you change the date and the name, that could be my speech today in the Assembly. It says, what are these governors doing? They are appointed for political reasons. They are here to obstruct the functioning of the government. Which governor ever went to a conference and said, my state needs this? When was the last time a governor went and voiced for their states in a governor's conference or at the union government? And, all of these appointments are done for the wrong reason. We are 50 years later saying the same thing. Now the Supreme Court judgment has at least given us some relief that says that these powers are not unlimited. Correct. These powers are intended for some kind of reasonable check and balance, and you don't get to sit on these permanently, neither the governor nor the president, which is the essence of democracy, that nobody is above the law, nobody's actions. The governor is not justiciable, but the actions of the governor are justiciable. The president is not justiciable, but the actions of the president are justiciable. All of you have to follow the law. That's really, I think, finally after 75 years. And you should read this judgment because it talks about all these previous attempts. Under the Congress governments in 69 and 86, the DMK's Rajamanar Commission, the Committee for the Review of the Working of the Constitution under the NDA government under Thiru Vajpayee, then the Justice Poonchi Commission under the UPA government under Dr. Manmohan Singh. All of them point out these major flaws. Okay. Let me put it just one line. If you try to do everything from Delhi because you are that power hungry, you are going to fail. There's no discussion. You are going to fail. The irony is that they try to force this model not on the states that are already behind. They look for all the states that are ahead and say, your model is not good enough, take my model. It is like dragging everybody down to the lowest common denominator.
Fair enough. So in light of this judgment, do you feel a little more secure about Kerala having its own rights?
It is a historical judgment. Actually, governor, not only from 60s, in 59, the first communist government of Kerala was dismissed by the union government. That was the first attack on federalism by using this political tool of the union government, that is the governor. And 67 assembly elections, Congress lost power in different states. Thereafter 77, after the emergency, Congress lost power in the union. These periods are more important, is a historical transformation of this attack on federalism. And governor, actually it is a political tool, the de jure head of the state. De facto elected chief minister and the council of ministers of the state, head of the states. And during Constituent Assembly debates, our minister has mentioned the debate from the member from Tamil Nadu. There was a question whether this governor should be an elected post. The reply was very interesting. Ambedkar said, there is no power to the governor to take any action by his own. He is an ornamental post. Anybody is ready to contest for this type of post in elections. This is totally wastage of money. That was the reply of the reply by the Ambedkar in the Constituent Assembly. And anybody can be a governor, only one condition, at least 35 years old. But for contesting in a local body election, another additional condition is there, should not be insane. But that condition is not for a governor. At least 35 years of old. Anybody can be a governor. Then this 414 pages judgment. This is a historical judgment.
Yeah.
Actually, Bombay case judgment, it is a historical judgment to protect the federalism and ensure federalism as a basic sector of the constitution. And Shamsher Singh judgment, that is defend the role of the governor, act by the advice of the Council of Ministers. Then again, this judgment also is a historical judgment. This 200, Article 200, how governor can give assent to the bills. That is assent, withhold and sent to the president. During that period, in the, I think, Government of India Act, this assent provision, there is a word, by the discretion of the governor. It was there. It was deleted. Because after 1947, India became independent. Some governors are still living in the colonial period. That is the issue. But Constituent Assembly had correctly deleted that word. In the draft of the Constitution, there is a time provision. That is within 6 weeks. The President and government should give the assent or should take a decision within 6 weeks. It was there in the draft of the Constitution. Then there was a debate. Then Ambedkar said we should not fix a time period for the governor or president. They should act as early as possible. Before this period, they should act on this. Nobody will predict these type of personalities would become the governors of the states at that time or constituent assembly.
Okay, thank you. We are pretty much out of time, but we'll take 3 questions. Please raise your hands. The lady over there, the gentleman over there, sorry, yourself, and Ram. We'll start with Mr. Ram right here. That's fine.
On delimitation, the main political objection is, of course, you're penalizing states that have done well following national policies for both population control by whatever name called and development. Because once you develop, the growth rate automatically, more or less organically goes down, right? That's the main political objection, which I think is widely understood. But there must be a limit to the number of people in Parliament. First, physical accommodation, say 800 something. And then time allotted to speakers. Parliament becomes meaningless if you get only 7 minutes, 5 minutes, etc. Lok Sabha, I mean. So there is also a limit to physical limit, like a biological limit for how long people can live. There's a physical limit to this. So what is that limit?
Okay, we'll just take other 2 questions as well so we can wrap up.
Hi, sir.
Yeah, at the back.
Hi, sir. Thank you for your views on delimitation theory, which is the core explanation of Article 82 and Article 170 of the Constitution. Sir, do you think your views uphold the principle of one nation, one vote, or just be a critic of that?
Okay, and the 3rd question here. No, mic here, please, to the front here.
Good morning. I'm Vijay Kumar IAS, retired IAS officer from Chennai. To the panel here, respected ministers, a clear understanding of, I'm a student of Constitution of India. I've done my research in political science. India is a union of states, as mentioned by the minister. It should not be understood as union for states. It should be understood as union of states, not for states. Historically, India was made a union of linguistic states. This difference is very difficult to get over. Still, union government should not make an attempt to make it as a union of Hindi-speaking states. There should be a clear understanding of the Union of India. As per my opinion, Indian federalism should follow a little bit of US federalism. USA has got a fantastic independent union states, and the government of USA is only in charge of external affairs,
So can you get your question, please, quickly? We're running out of time.
Yeah. This Minister from Tamil Nadu, our beloved Palanivel sir, you have been the Minister for Finance also. Unit system of taxation, that is central government system of taxation, should not punish the well-paying states. In the name of federalism, they should be encouraging the states which is paying more tax. The whole was good for Tamil Nadu and Kerala also. So,
Okay, thank you. I think we have it.
Sorry,
We'll take that as the language question. Sorry, sir, we're out of time.
Thank
So
you.
we have one question on the organic limit to the number of seats in Parliament. We have one on one nation, one vote, and one on language. I'll leave it to you, gentlemen, to decide which ones you'd like to take.
Physical thing, that is, Mr. Ram has mentioned a very valid question. The number of the days for functioning of the Parliament Assembly should have been increased, and fruitful utilization of that time. Now in Parliament, I think nothing has been done. Only one-man voice is there. Then it should be more distributed. Now itself, our time is limited. I was in the upper house. While we are mentioning the special mentions, concluding 3 minutes only, then all mics off just after the 3 minutes. It is there. It is allotted to the parties. The time is allotted to the parties. Parties allotted to the speakers. That is the thing. It should be there. That is a practical thing. Then the rules should be amended in accordance with the changes. I am totally against with the one country, one nation, one vote. This is a part of an integral program. One country, one language. In Kerala, if I want to introduce a bill in Malayalam, then I should go to the governor to get the approval of the translation in English. That is a constitutional provision. 346, 348, Supreme Court, High Court, and Parliament, all business should be in English. And the communication in between states should be in English. Once Mr. E.K. Nayanar was the Chief Minister of Kerala, the then Defence Minister, Mr. Mulayam Singh, wrote a letter to Chief Minister in Hindi. Nayanar is well aware of the constitutional position. Then he wrote a letter to the Defence Minister in Malayalam. Because as per the constitution, without the consent of the state, you should not communicate through Hindi or any other language. Because Hindi is only an official language. 348 is very clear. Supreme Court should be in English. Parliament proceedings should be in English. Now what is de facto? What is the position? All proceedings are in Hindi. The union ministers are writing letters to the state governments in Hindi. That is totally against the constitution. Then one country, one language, one country, one vote, it is totally against the basic structure of the constitution, basic concept of the constitution. And US federalism is entirely different from Indian federalism. That is a federation of independent states. Our constitutional position is entirely different. As for my understanding, till today, United States could not implement one tax. The states are not in favor of GST. They could not implement one tax, one nation. India, yes, GST is there, but USA, different taxes for different states. That is entirely different. But we are trying to protect the existing concept of federalism as per our constitution.
Thank you, sir. Would you like to take up any of this?
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking yesterday, day before, I was in Chennai. And Chief Minister asked me to go and be the chief guest for the 65th Independence Day of Togo, of the Republic of Togo. Do you know where it is? I didn't know. I've been to Ghana, I've been to Nigeria, I didn't know there were two countries in between, called Togo and Benin. I went to the 65th Independence Day celebration held in Chennai for the first time outside Delhi. And they gave me a bunch of material to read. I have my own research team did, and they were talking about their pride in the diversity of their culture, of their language, of the religions, of the many tribal legacies they have. And, all of this they were proclaiming as the great strength of the country, though it's one country, and this was a great aspect of it. Country of 8 million people. In 8 million people, they understand that diversity is a strength, that everybody should have freedom to practice what they want, eat what they want, follow what they want. Here we are in a country of almost 1.5 billion people. Any notion of trying to bring you to a common denominator must be the lowest common denominator. It is a fool's errand to try and bring somebody to one nation, one X. Right? I would say even one nation, one tax has been implemented pretty badly, as a guy who sat on the reforms committee of the GST Council. So this notion that somehow there are these, blithe kind of one-liners that can solve all problems is kind of juvenile. Thoughtful people need to think about things more kind of in depth, more with sensitivity, more with historical example around the world. And we need to do what moves everybody up, not what brings somebody down to the lowest common denominator. Right?
Thank you. On that poignant note, we will wrap up this discussion.